Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Sunday Sessions at MoMA PS1. I am Alex Sloan, the curatorial assistant focused on the program. And I'm thrilled to welcome back the Tribeca Film Festival. This is the third year that we have collaborated with the festival, and I'm particularly excited about today's program, which is a special advance preview of Ma, which is the feature-length debut from filmmaker, choreographer, and Bessie Award-winning performer, CELIA ROWLSON-HALL. CELIA, who also stars in the film alongside her close collaborator, Andrew Pastides, and Amy Seimetz. Well known for her fashion and music videos and short films. Coming from a background in choreography, she approaches her material through ritual and performance and the body as sculpture to create a unique visual aesthetic that is both visceral and surreal. Following the screening, we're very excited that CELIA is going to be joined by artist Shirin Nishat in a conversation about the film and her practice. And finally, we're very lucky that a large number of the cast and crew are here with us today, and several of them will be joining Shirin and CELIA when we open up for Q&A. And now I would like to introduce Elizabeth Rao from the Tribeca Film Festival to say a few words. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's special advance work-in-progress screening of CELIA ROWLSON-HALL's feature debut. We were so bowled over when we saw this visionary film. So we do hope that you enjoy the journey as much as we do. And please stick around for the conversation after the screening with Shirin Nishat. Thank you to Alex Sloan and all of the PS1 team for making this program possible. And please join me in welcoming CELIA ROWLSON-HALL.
First off, thank you for being here. And thank you to Tribeca and to PS1 MoMA for making me feel like an artist and really supporting me and yep, let's use the supporting word one more time. So let's also notice the shaking arm. So as this is a work in progress, we don't have the rolling credit thingies at the end because that costs money and we aren't going to do it twice. So I'm going to be your rolling credits, and I want to say that a lot of people who worked on the film are here, and I am so thankful to all of you. And so producers, Aaron Schnobrook, Lauren Smitelli. Executive producers, Sebastian Pardo, Riel Roekdechter, Neil Bledsoe, Carl Kister, and Mary Calkins. Also, associate producers, Raquel Loving and Addison Hatch. DP, Ian Bloom. AC, Alexander Sablo, Nathan Trucks, second AC and DIT. Greg Mayu, production sound mixer. Hannah El-Assad, hair and makeup. Jen Dunlap, production designer. Naomi Monroe, art director. Allison Pierce, costume designer. Editor, Eva Radovoyevich. Sorry, Eva. Brian McComber, composer. Tim Korn and Keller McDivitt, sound designers. Teddy Blanks, title design. Actors, Peter Vack, Neil Bledsoe, Kentucker Audley, and my hero, partner, and muse, Andrew Pastides. I want to also thank everybody who contributed to Kickstarter because, trust me, nobody was going to give me money unless you guys did. And so this is what we made. and I'm really grateful to be doing what I'm doing, and I'm grateful to share it with you all. So thank you so much.
Well, I have to confess, I've never done this before. I'm not a film critic or any expert, but first and most, congratulations.
Thank you.
From all of us, I think, to anyone who has worked on this film. And I think the first thing that I wish we could see the audience a little better, but I think, Celia, the first thing that came to my mind when I was watching this film was how daring this film truly is in its purity and in the way that you have managed to incorporate your experience in dance, choreography, performance art, visual arts, all in this film. And I would say it's truly an original. I have so many questions from you, but I want to also say that in October, when we were shooting a film upstate New York, a film that I helped produce, Alison Pierce, who's here, had just come back from Nevada shooting in August, and I thought that is one crazy woman director to shoot in Nevada in August, and that was very daring of you. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I think as an artist who's also indulged in making a movie, my question is mostly about the way that you went to find your way of storytelling. How did you, were there lots of influences in cinema, or was this something that it feels to me that you have really pioneered with your friends, this film that it's really unprecedented in many ways. And so how did you go about sort of developing the storytelling that you have here? What has been, and did you write a script, or was it not scripted?
I did write a script. I think it was, well, by the time I got slug lines, thank you, cinematographer Ian Bloom, it was a 27-page script. And I think that the way that I came about the story was, I guess I have certain obsessions that I kind of can't get out of my head, and images that pop up, and so I just write down tons of images in notebooks and then somehow figure out how to like link them together. And I don't know, when I was little, I wanted to grow up and be Jesus, and then I had a moment and I was like, wait, I'm a girl, I can't be Jesus, who's next? Mother Mary. And so really kind of became obsessed with the idea of virginity and the idea that I could bring forth a savior, so that I could, maybe I couldn't be the one to heal the world of its pain, but I could bring somebody forth who could. And so, yeah, it just kind of,
did you actually write a script, full script, like scene by scene, or was it more improvised?
it was very, very, really non-improvised, rehearsed, yes. So yeah, like for example, Andrew Pastides and I, we rehearsed those scenes a good fair amount so that it felt spontaneous. But I had in the script, he puts the bed sheet on his head, plays the song, like snake into, yeah, so it was like all of the movements were always written out. And thanks to all of my incredible collaborators, it gets to happen, so.
I mean, one of the things that runs through the film from the beginning to the end is how evocative and truly mysterious the film is. And I'm sure every one of us, because the film is truly so enigmatic, will leave with a totally different interpretation. And my humble one is that somehow even the characters became very symbolic in a way that you became that mysterious character that was rather mystical in all of its torturous, which usually religious figures are. And the man, so you were the unworldly character, where the male character embodied what is reality and what is worldly. And you yourself, I felt like you were conflicted in between the worldly versus the unworldly needs. I don't know, and I felt that there was a lot of obscurity and sort of intentional absurdity that played that up, and the way that you broke the interior versus the exterior, the way that you just sort of easily navigated between spaces, nature versus civilization, culture, what they represent. In a way, nature always suggests an idea of spirituality, and where civilization is man-made. So I couldn't help to feel that throughout the film there was this perpetual conflict that was going on, and that was very touching. And I wanted to ask you whether, I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in this film, but could you talk about your use of symbolism in the way that it was carried on in the characters?
I think that because I don't like to use dialogue in my films, I really feel like I have to get the expression to be visual, and so that I don't know, I've always responded to, once again, I mean, I remember reading the Bible and like being trapped in the belly of a whale. You know, it's just like these images and these symbols and these metaphors, and I remember them being so strong and impactful, and so I think I've carried that with me, and nature is just, I don't know, filled with those to me. Or actually, when we look at religion, we actually see symbols that are represented in nature, and water. Yeah, I mean it's all elemental. Just sand, water, fire. Drawing a blank. I don't know.
But I mean, I don't know if some people agree, but I even saw a touch of David Lynch in this film, or a little bit of Matthew Barney. And I'm just wondering, in the development of this film, since you were entering the world of cinema and I had my own challenges, whether you went about making this film with that purity of an intention, or did you actually look back at film history and some of the directors that have influenced you in any ways that you could share with us, or not?
Yeah, what's kind of funny is that I actually grew up on like Charlie Chaplin and Laurel Hardy, and that was it. Parents in the back didn't let me watch any television or movies besides that. Anyways, and so I really, and then I came from dance into film, and so my knowledge of cinema is actually extremely poor, and so in a way my like naivete to cinema, I'm just sort of figuring out what I like, and then it has had moments of I made a film and somebody said, oh, that reminds me of David Lynch, and I was like, who's that? And then watched everything, and then the next thing I made, I was like, it's like totally David Lynch. No, you know. So I think there's like obviously nothing is truly original, but I do very much believe in having a purity of vision and kind of being very particular with what I watch and the amount of it that I watch. And yeah, so I try to fill myself with like literature and painting and like other things that can somehow influence, and so I don't go and remake other people's movies.
before we have to open up to the audience, I have a very important question. How could you direct a film while you were acting? I always found that, I mean, I occasionally pose for my photographs, but I was just wondering, how was that experience, first of all, directing a big film with a big production with lots of people, but also to direct it while you were acting. Could you talk about that a little bit?
It definitely had its challenges, but thanks to Andrew Pastides, who was my co-star and collaborator, anytime that I was on screen, he really just guided and coached and helped me through a lot of moments. So I always had someone who had an eye on me, on the frame, and I very much trust my cinematographer Ian, that he'll tell me, you know, if I'm doing something absolutely horrible, and so it's absolutely a collaboration. But without Andrew, we probably would have stopped filming after like day 3, because I would have just been a lump somewhere. So I owe a lot to him.
One other last question I'm really curious about. Was that intentional to shoot in August in Death Valley? In terms of the film is so much about feeling pain and almost torturous, and I couldn't help to know that you shot that. And at the very beginning of the film, when you're walking, and I kept feeling it must be the heat, it must be the heat. I've once been there in August, and literally you couldn't even get out of the car. So was that an intention on your part to put yourself in an environmental situation that is actually gives you that added tension or pressure?
Yes, and I'm an idiot. It was the kind of thing where it was scheduling, and I realized if we didn't shoot in August, we actually weren't going to shoot last year. And I was going so crazy that I couldn't wait another year. So I was like, fine, August in the desert, let's do it. And there were some hospital trips. I think everybody lost at least like 10 pounds of water weight at least. We got really tan and skinny, everybody. But shooting was survival. It wasn't like fun creativity time. It was survival, because it's like, oh great, it's 115 degrees out. Let's shoot this. And so it was like, thank God for pre-production and planning, because we just had to execute what we set out to make. And because I did want to feel like the heat on the lens and all that, but I'm not doing that again. I learned, and we have some great stories, but no need to put ourselves in that much pain.
Can I ask one last question? Because I know there must be so many pending questions. In terms of your future outlook for this film, do you wish to expand beyond the art audience and actually have this film seen for theatrical release or film festivals in a way that will allow other type of audience? How do you see the future of the placement of this film? Since in a way it's so uncompromising, without the language, with the little music, but how do you see it in that wider picture?
Well, I do feel that it's a film and that it has a story, and I do know that I'm sure it's challenging to take in, because I am really demanding a lot of an audience. But I guess what I feel is like, I'm sick of not being demanded of when I go and see films. So like, work, you know, like I guess I want to work, and so I want other people to work, and so, you know, I think that most film is just I don't know, it's just kind of passionless and spineless, and so if that means, you know, not as many people see it, it's okay. I, of course, want it to go as far and wide as possible, but I also will not compromise what I believe in the way that I want to tell my stories for a wider audience. So I'll be grateful for Mom and Dad to hit the Vimeo link a couple times every day.
Well, I have to say that I find this film very beautiful and, first of all, visually just incredibly provocative. I think it will find its place, and I salute you, because many of us as visual artists, when we get seduced by Hollywood or the film industry, we tend to compromise quite a lot of our visual arts language, in your part as dance language. And I think what is the greatest thing about this film is that you have not compromised, and you have made truly an original film. And I think, as you said, there is a demand for films that are so pure and so wonderful. That said, I want to give the audience to, and of course your crew and everyone, to come up. I don't want to dominate, but thank you for inviting me and this opportunity.
You. I just want to say that she's my hero, and I use this opportunity to meet her. Could I please have there's so many of us, so I'm just going to invite up just a few of the creative keys so that you can, but please give everyone love. Actually, can everybody who worked on the movie please stand up, and can I please have Jen, Allie, Ian, Eva, Brian, and Andrew Pastides up here? Thank you.
For Celia, and Brian is the composer, yes? It's great, hi. So I was just curious, I just wanted to know about the collaborative process in regards to the music, because, as far as I know, usually, the music is the last thing that gets, I guess, added onto film, and everything was so well-timed with the choreography and the music, so I was just curious about what came first, or did you guys just, how did you guys work on that together?
Take it.
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you. And so Celia sent me a script September, almost 2 years ago. And we immediately started talking. I think I wrote you an email saying how the script affected my sleep that evening. And then I started, we originally talked about gongs. That was and there is some gongs still, but I think some of the early pieces, we started sending files back and forth. I was taking gongs and manipulating them, slowing them down and stretching them out. And there was one track in particular, I think I sent you like 5 or so tracks. And then there was one in particular that you just really responded to. And after that, I don't know, one thing led to another, and over the next year, we slowly worked on it. And and then there was some other specific stuff, like the vocal thing. I think that once I saw it cut, and especially just the images, really it pulled out all these other ideas. And then trying to have certain arrival points in the dances, specifically like the G.I. Joe dance, just letting that movement dictate certain arrival points in the music as well. But yeah, I think there was quite a lot of different approaches we took for different pieces, but it started it was about a 1.5-year journey with the music.
And he would send me just like 20-minute long gong session things, and this is so modern dance sounding, but I'd like go into the studio and just get affected by the gongs and choreograph. So yeah, it's cool, because I do know that typically it's here's the film, put music on top of it, but it's been quite a wonderful dialogue, and Brian's been very patient over all this time, and getting the right tones and the right sounds.
Do you have that music playing while you were filming, so you can dance to it, so to speak?
No. It was, I did dance to the track that is in the Dying Swan dance. I did dance to that song that is in the in the movie now, thinking that we actually weren't going to use it. But anyways, that was the only time that I actually danced to music, and then the rest of the times it was just because we had to get proper sound. There was no music being played.
Your locations were really beautiful, and I was wondering what your process was in finding like the hotel and the pool and all that.
So Celia had done a preliminary scout 2 years ago, I think. And then we found out that one of the original motels we wanted to use had been abandoned and closed down and taken over by hoodlums. And so we went back in February of last year and re-scouted everything. And I was like, okay, we have to be an hour and a half from Las Vegas. So what are the towns around there? So we like kind of did this tour de force of weird towns in Arizona and Nevada. And then we found Kingman, Arizona, which is just a little blip on a map on Route 66. And we toured a bunch of places and met a bunch of amazing, very interesting people, and picked out a few we liked and said this feels right. And you know, it was a lot about the colors, it was a lot about the light in the sky, it was a lot about the shape of the pool and how we could match that to the shape of the other pool. And I don't know, Ian?
Right, but the second motel in the film is a set that Jen built. I'm not sure if that's clear. Yeah.
With no money. And I do want to give a very special shout out to Naomi Monroe. Where are you? She's the art director on this film, and she did the work of 1,200 people, so that's amazing.
Hi, am I on? Okay, great. Hi, Celia. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
And I feel like in a lot of your other work, there's a lot of this like hyper femininity, and I think that there was that one moment where you stuffed your bra, where it was, you know, this hyper feminine moment, but until the end, there's not a lot of that really strong femininity. She's very, as you said, pure and virginistic, and I just would hope that you would talk a little bit more about the contrast between, you know, the rest of the film and that end where it's like boobs and glitter.
You know, I think that one of my things I will always be figuring out is what is my definition of, I guess, femininity, and what is it at this point in time. And so I think that with your like gross interpretations of femininity, or you know, like this like hypersexualized woman, big boobs, arched back, you know, I guess what I am interested in is like how far to push that, and then how far to like empty it out to get to the like essence of what is a woman, and that she's human. And so it's not, it becomes genderless to me. It just becomes like, it's a body that needs things. And that's, I think, what I'm working on, trying to figure out in this. I didn't do a great job answering that. I'm sorry. I'll write you an email.
Like from dust, a less significant question about all your technical things. The sand, the metaphor for the sand. I interpreted it as we come from dust and we shall return to dust, and it was like significant for the instead of water being the power of life. Although there was that in there too. I thought the sand was. I don't know what it meant though. I don't think you care if I know what it means.
Of course I do.
You do? Yeah. Oh, okay. So what is it? I want to know.
No, I care of your interpretation. For me, what it was, you know, we're on our path, and when we stray from our path, the path calls us back. And so the sand is like coming out of the woman, you know, next to her hotel room, out of her womb, and the sand is coming through the walls, and it's coming out of the sinks, and it's reminding her she needs to get back to the desert. She needs to get back to her journey, and so that is what the sand signifies for me personally in this film. But I am open to anything and everything people have to offer.
You said before, you usually come up with these types of sort of separate images, very visceral, very clear images, and over time you said you kind of sew them together. Mm-hmm. How long was that process in terms of a timeline?
I mean, I sort of have these notebooks and they have different ideas, and I mean, probably like 4 years ago had the image of a priest baptizing a little boy in a little kiddie pool inside of a larger emptied out pool. That scene got cut, but you know, that was like an image that I, you know, wrote down like 5 years ago, and then as I was like putting the story together, I was reminded of that image, and then, you know, and so it's just sort of, it's kind of, it's, I don't know, kind of just, it's all coming from one place anyway, so, you know, it all eventually ends up there on the page. I am failing this miserably. I think let's do some of this.
You have a question?
Yeah. How did you control the rain so well? Because I mean, some of that was just like perfect.
Which scene are you talking about? Yeah, it's a rain rig on a rolling stand. Sorry to take the magic away, man. That's a combination of visual effects and a rig that Jen and Naomi built.
So the rain rig in the desert was built completely free. I had to rummage through someone's trash an hour and a half from our location because I had been begging them to cut that rain rig in the desert because I did not want to do it. Because I knew it'd be hard and we'd have to get a water truck out in the middle of the Dumont Dunes, which is just 115 degrees all day long and miserable. But I go and I find this Rubbermaid trash can and then 2 garden like planter containers, and I poke holes through them and we like string it up on a you know, C-stand, and I'm up on a ladder pouring bottles of water into this funneled hot water over Andrew and Amy, just pouring it so it like goes down, and then when it gets to the holes it rains on them. It was yeah.
Their costumes dried in 2 seconds, by the way.
I just wanted to ask about the chemistry between the 2 lead characters, because you guys obviously had like an undeniable chemistry, and you guys spoke to each other without actually ever speaking, and I just wanted to know if you'd worked together before, did you write it together? Was it something that you've been working on together for a long time?
CELIA wrote it. I had nothing to do with the writing. I think she wrote it for 3.5 years or something. I mean, it was 3.5 years since you wrote it that we started filming. Yeah. But we have worked together for a long time. And, you know, she's bold and dangerous and honest. And it's always something, you know, she always has something that I want to work on. And for me, it was just about justifying what's unspoken this whole time. So she would ask me, to jump around and act like a monkey, and I'd have to figure out, well, okay, but why am I going to do that? And what is this about? And it's about putting you at ease, or it's about frightening you a little bit. And she and I are very close and willing to, be dangerous and intimate with each other. And she always pushes me further, and I think vice versa. So yeah, that's how that works. Was that in the script? Yeah. It was written. I thought about. Yeah, that was written in the script, and then, yeah, the other stuff doesn't have to be explained. The other shoot thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the limp ruined my boots in the desert. Put holes straight through them.
I'd like to ask about how each of you came to this film, why you are so impassioned about it, and what story do you all each think it is telling, since the visual story is so evocative but so open to interpretation, but you all had to work as such a cohesive, collaborative team. So I wanted to know how much did you talk about that ahead of time, how much did you decide on your own, and what do you think this film is going to do for humanity?
Who wants to start? I'll start. Celia gave me the script a few years ago, and I read it, and I was like, what is this? But I was blown away at the same time, and I was like, this is really weird and really magical, and I am going to go on this journey with her because I believe in Celia as an artist, and as an artist myself, I was blown away with the symbolic imagery and the visual storytelling that happened with these really, really rich images. And I think while we were making it, I was all just like, okay, we have faith in this, we're excited about it, and we're just gonna plow through and get it done. We have 24 days, and let's make it happen. And then the stunning thing for me was to see the first cut of it, and I was blown away again by how magically everything gelled, and how we had all been working on this thing that we kind of knew what it was about a little bit, and then seeing it come together, you're just like, wow, okay, that's amazing.
I'm not actually sure when I got on the project exactly. I sort of just like Celia was like, "Here's the script. We're working on this." So I never said okay, but we've been working together for I don't know how many years, on and off. She's had some other DPs, but it's I think it was a good choice for us to work together on this because we have been doing films where it'd be like, Celia carrying dolly track out into the woods, and that's sort of kind of a good route for this film to maybe start at, I guess. Yeah, and then, I don't know, just a good collaboration, I guess.
I met Celia at Sundance a few years ago through Andrew, and she was like, "You have to read this script," and I cried when I read it. It was the best thing I've ever read. I think I was really attracted to it because there's no dialogue, and it's all visual, so it's art and costumes and cinematography. And it's a good opportunity for me as a costume designer to tell a story without, basically showing what the actor is, and they interact with the costume instead of they're just wearing it and you don't notice it. It's a focal point, basically. I was also really attracted to it because of Celia, and a female director. I think it's really important, the story that she's telling, and it was great to work with her.
Yeah, I think I'd just add that is that anytime I'd come up with an idea, I felt like she was just incredibly open to whether. One day I had this idea that I wanted to mic up a cactus and play it. We didn't end up doing that, but everything was. It was just she never said no. She just would say what she liked or didn't like, and I really enjoyed that.
What shall I add that hasn't been said? Well, I think a friend connected us, right? Josephine Decker. And she said that you were looking for a sensual editor, something along those lines. I was like, oh, I can be that, I'll be that. And then Celia said something like, there's no dialogue. And I was like, yes, there's no dialogue. And then she sent me images, and I fell in love with the film. And then I thought, like Shireen, I thought it was very David Lynchian. It was very Jodorowsky a little bit. And then she came, we met, and Celia said, I'm looking for warriors like Jodorowsky. And I was like, oh my God, I can be a warrior. And this is perfect. And the film is incredible, and I love it. And I actually didn't know, Celia, you or your work before that, and I'm so glad that I'm part of this, so thank you.
Well, maybe we should. One more, maybe? Anyone? Or no? Yes.
I'm curious, you mentioned one dance was called the Dying Swan, and I didn't even know which one that would be, and so I'm curious if the dances all had names, or...
Yeah, the TV dance, when she's affected by the television and goes through the different sort of genres of entertainment, is what I call that. And then the moment before she sort of turns into Daniel in the room alone after everybody's left is what I call the Dying Swan dance, because it has this last moment that is in Swan Lake. And a lot of that was sort of drawn from, I always wanted to be a ballerina, and never was, couldn't be. And so I used a lot of my personal, like I guess like my personal grief of never being that sort of ideal of grace, beauty, and perfection. So, you know, Ma is going through not being able to be this virgin mother. And so I had to sort of personalize it by not being able to be that beautiful ballerina, and that's where I got that, the dance and the imagery, and so that's what I call the Dying Swan dance.
Thank you.
Thank you.